Strategic Sally is one of the rarest buyer personas out there, and she is by far the one that sellers want to deal with the most. Why? Because Strategic Sally is going to pay the most typically, and unlike other buyer personas, when Strategic Sally does pay more, it's usually not that big of a deal for her end goal, because unlike the other personas, she is specifically acquiring very specific businesses that when she acquires that business, it allows her to grow her other businesses in tandem, and her other businesses grow this acquisition. So she builds her businesses in this very beautiful symphony that between the assets orchestrates themselves into a vast growing empire where 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2 for Strategic Sally. For Strategic Sally, 1 + 1 can often equal 5 or 6. And that is a big reason why Strategic Sally, if you are a Strategic Sally, you are probably going to be able to acquire any deal you want because you will most likely be in the best position to pay the most and thus beat out all the other buyer personas out there. I'm going to tell you why that is a great deal here in just a second. So let's get into who Strategic Sally is. Hey everyone, my name is Gregory Elfrank. I am the Director of Marketing here at Empire Flippers. We help people every single day of the week buy and sell online businesses. And now we're talking about Strategic Sally. So if you haven't been following this buyer persona series, definitely hit the subscribe bell and go and watch all of the other videos in this playlist. This is one of the final buyer personas that we're talking about. And if you haven't watched the other ones, they kind of go in a sequence a bit where I talk about the most common evolutions from say a newbie norm all the way up to here to a Strategic Sally. So let's talk who is Strategic Sally and see if this is you. And by the way, if you want to find out what kind of buyer persona you are, you can go ahead and use the link down in the description below and take our free buyer persona quiz. Won't take you very long at all. It's just a fun little quiz and you can see what we think you might be. Don't be and don't despair if you get a buyer persona you don't like on that quiz, because as I mentioned throughout this whole series, you can evolve and change over time as your investing ability and acumen grows. So don't worry about it. Everything is changeable. So let's talk about who Strategic Sally is. Strategic Sally is a very interesting buyer persona. Like I mentioned in the hook of this video, really 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2 to her. It usually can be 4, 5, 6 or more. And the reason why is, again, she's acquiring businesses that helps her other businesses grow. So because I just said that, it goes kind of without saying that Strategic Sally, maybe they are brand new to buying online businesses, but they are definitely not new when it comes to being an online entrepreneur. They usually already have successful businesses of some sort that they're running. And unlike other personas where they might have multiple different projects, like in different niches and verticals and all that kind of stuff, usually Sally is very focused on one specific thing, growing in a specific niche or a specific vertical and all that kind of stuff. So she is by far the most focused buyer persona, and she is also the rarest buyer persona for that very reason. So unlike someone like a Portfolio Paul or Investor Ivan or Newbie Norm, where really any kind of online business could meet their criteria, there's only very tiny handfuls of businesses that meets a Strategic Sally's criteria. She has absolutely the tightest criteria in terms of what she would buy, even tighter than Investor Ivan, because it has to make sense with her other businesses. And usually those opportunities don't come around very often. So a Strategic Sally, like if you are one, you might be using a broker, like you might be on a broker list like ours, but most likely you will be doing a private deal just because typically, if you're waiting for a broker to come out with a business that makes total sense as a complementary to your business, it is so specific you might be waiting forever for it, right? Now, I'm not saying it doesn't happen. It absolutely does. We have sold to Strategic Sally's before, so it's definitely a good idea for you to be on every broker's list in the industry, especially ours. But just know that you will probably need to go outside of a broker to find your deal if you're in a hurry to acquire something that can help you grow your other businesses. One of your big advantages as a Strategic Sally is sellers absolutely love you. Like if they are in a selling mood and they want to like exit their business and they come across you, they are most likely going to be selling to you because one, you're in a niche or a business that resonates with them, because if you weren't, you probably wouldn't be buying their business in the first place, because that defeats the whole purpose of being a strategic Sally. So they already have a bit of love for what you're doing, right? And they see what you're trying to do, and that is cool to them. Most entrepreneurs think that's awesome. And most people who sell their business, they honestly want the buyer to do well with what they bought. Like, very few people were like, yes, I just sold you my $200,000 business, I hope it goes down in flames. Very few sellers are like that. They wish you the best as a buyer, right? They want you to succeed, and maybe you'll buy another business from them down the road if you do. So that's great. The other thing that you have as an advantage over other buyer personas is you are able to pay the absolute most. So the only buyer persona that might be real competition for you is going to be someone like an Investor Ivan. That's because they actually have large amounts of capital. But unlike Investor Ivan, as long as you have the capital, you can actually overpay more than what Investor Ivan would pay and still make it a wildly profitable deal for you. Because this is just an example, but let's say you are a content site owner, you have a health and fitness website that talks about how to lose weight or something like that. You're looking at buying an Amazon FBA business that sells jump ropes and fitness equipment like that. So you want to buy this so you can use your content site to grow the FBA business, but you can also use the FBA business to grow the content site. You can change up the packaging where when they open up the product to their jump rope, there's an insert talking about your content site that gets them on your email newsletter. Now you can sell them on all the other affiliate products and display ads, all that good stuff there. So there's a real synchronous thing. When it comes to Investor Ivan, usually they're only buying Amazon FBA businesses and they want to buy this jump rope business, but they don't really have another business to fling them off of each other. So while yes, they could technically pay more than you, they most likely won't, because it doesn't make sense for them. It doesn't like create this wow factor where both businesses grow, right? Because in Investor Ivan, they might buy this jump rope business and then they also have a guitar business, right? Like, they don't really sing together, if you know what I mean, right? So strategic Sally, you're in a really good position to make probably the best offers. You can beat out most people that make an offer on a business, and it would still make financial sense for you because of the compound effect of both of those businesses. And which leads me to another point. Unlike other buyer personas where usually you're focused on one type of business model, a strategic Sally might have multiple different business models. In fact, the entire persona kind of behooves you to do that because different business models have different pros and cons. So if you built this acquisition machine that is almost every single business model around this one vertical, you basically corner that market, right? If you have a content site on fitness, you have a jump rope Amazon FBA, maybe you buy a KDP business all about different healthy cooking book recipes, all that kind of stuff. All this stuff works together. Obviously, it can be very stressful to buy several different business models at once, especially if you don't know how to run them. So I would be careful on that. But by doing this, you're focused all on one niche, so you already know the niche, you just need to learn the actual business model, right? So there's a lot of power here versus other personas where they're usually just focused on one business model. You as a strategic Sally can focus on several different business models. With the caveat, you must learn how those businesses run, otherwise you're going to lose your money. Like, you might lose your money anyways, even if you do know how to run it, because hey, investing into online business is risky and volatile. Despite crazy ROI you can get, it's always good to remember that it is a volatile asset. That being said, there are ways around it. And some of the ways you can do it is simply by hiring team members that know how that business model is ran. Maybe you hire someone that is an Amazon FBA agency to help you with the jump rope business, or an operations person that understands inventory forecasting and all that kind of stuff, right? Or vice versa, maybe you already have the FBA business and you hire an in-house SEO to help you with the content site. So there's a bunch of different ways you can get around this. My personal favorite, if you want to become a juggernaut strategic Sally, is to hire domain experts to work on your team. People who are already talented in the places you need before you acquire the business. Ideally, you can bring them on as part of the deal, like, hey, I want your help for me to evaluate this business. Is this a good one? And will you run it for me once I buy it? I'll pay you this, whatever. Then this is a good way for you to build out your team. And I think if you're going to go hard as a strategic Sally, similar to an Investor Ivan, you really do need a team, because even if you know all the business models, running two or three different business models at once can be quite challenging. You're always switching your brain on what you're thinking and you have to stay up to date on two very radically different topics that are changing all the time. So usually the easiest path forward is going to be for you to hire people who are experts. So I already talked about how Strategic Sally will buy different business models, but another thing that she will do is, like, obviously they have to be complementary to each other, but they also should serve a specific purpose. And probably the most important purpose of buying the business is the marketing power. Now, what I mean by that isn't like how good is that business running Facebook ads or something like that, but what I mean is how good is that business acquisition as an actual marketing channel for your other businesses, because that's really what it is. It is a very heavy paid media play, in a sense, to buy one brand that grows another brand. So this is a super, super powerful thing to think about, and it is very different from a normal buyer persona. They're not usually looking at buying an online business as a marketing expense, but you as a Strategic Sally, it kind of is a marketing expense. And a great story of this is there is a company, I'm forgetting the name of it. I'll try to look it up and put it in the comments in the description below of what the company is if I can think of it. But there was a company that sold soldering equipment, and they are like the hero of Strategic Sallies. And I know about them because I study content marketing, and this was part of a course I took called the Content Marketing Institute, where they referenced this company. So this soldering company, they wanted to grow their brand in a big way. And one of the ways they could do it, they had like a few different options. They could have invested in a Super Bowl ad, which would have been very expensive. If you're American watching this, you probably understand how expensive that would be, and probably how little ROI they would have gotten as a soldering company doing a Super Bowl ad. But instead of doing a Super Bowl ad, they decided to go and acquire strategic assets. So they bought a bunch of different content sites, magazine style websites, all within the engineering and soldering space and anything tangentially related to the products that they actually sell. And they did that instead. And all of those businesses, all those assets that they acquired, all of them were already making money. So they're already in the black, right? The over time, just by acquiring these assets, the soldering company is going to make money just off of that. Display ads, affiliate advertising, or whatever else that they can sell on the website. But, and this is the important part, every single asset served as a marketing machine. So what they were doing is they were investing in growing what is known as an addressable audience. An addressable audience, all that means is you have an audience, say on an email list, that you can reach out to anytime you want about anything you want. They're an addressable audience, they've given you permission to reach out to them. So at any given time, over a period of, I think it was like 3 or 4 years of this company acquiring assets like this, at any given time of any given day of the year, they can send out an email to all of these different audiences that they have built to sell their soldering equipment that would eclipse the number of views that they would have gotten on that Super Bowl ad for free. They could do it every day for free. Now they'll probably lose a lot of subscribers, so probably not the best idea, but you get my point, that this is huge. And this made them one of the largest soldering companies in the world. I believe they might actually be one of the largest soldering companies in the world. I wish I could remember the name, but anyways, bad memory. But this is a great example where you can do as a Strategic Sally, where you can use these assets not just as profit machines, but marketing machines for your overall business. And it's a two-way street. Often you can use your main business to promote the other assets you acquired, so they build off of each other as they grow. So what are some quick tips for you if you want to become a Strategic Sally? Well, the first one is realizing you most likely will need to buy businesses that are a different business model than what you're currently building, because you're looking for complementary businesses, right? Now, sometimes you can buy the exact same business model site, like content site, or maybe an FBA business, but usually you're going to get more power if you have a different business model that works in a complementary nature with each other. So that is one of my first tips. And the next tip is, before you even seek out a different business model to buy from the one that you're running, buy a course, read a few books, start reading blogs, and start networking with people who are already running these kind of business models, because you want to be as educated as possible in the space before you buy a business in that space. And even then, because this is the first time you're probably ever operating this business model, there's a very good chance you're going to make mistakes and maybe even lose money on your first acquisition. So keep this all in mind, that you need to factor in the margin for error when you're doing this, right? That doesn't mean because you make a mistake, you give up and you never do it again. Like you make those mistakes and you learn and you do it again. You just need to factor in the possibility of you making those mistakes. One of the best things you can do is buy a $2,000 course or $3,000 course on the business model before you go and spend the $300,000, $400,000 on a business model and realize, not only do I not like this business model, but I have no idea how to run it, right? Like that's a much more expensive mistake to make. But the other thing that doing this networking will give you, networking with other people who are running these business models, is the ability to build relationships, which moves into the third part of making a successful strategic Sally play, which is hiring people who are good at what they do in the business model that you're not that good at, like you might not know that much about. And by networking with people who are in the space, you'll probably run into good agencies, good tools, good systems and processes that you can use, all before you ever even acquire the first business. So make that business book, your SOP book, your handy book, if you will, of how to run one of those businesses before you even buy it, before you even look for one. And once you do have that created and you feel confident in your ability to acquire, go ahead and join all the different broker lists, especially ours, like I mentioned, but also realize you might have to do some private deals. And private deals can be scary if you've never done any kind of acquisitions at all. Like if you're going to do a private deal and you've never bought a business before, you might want to just buy a small business from someone like us, like a $30,000, $40,000 business, even if it's not necessarily complementary to your business, just so you understand how the process works. Consider it like a large training fee where you should still be making money because we only sell businesses that are profitable anyways, but it's just a good idea for you to understand how the process works using a broker before you do a private deal. Now you might get lucky as a strategic Sally where the broker actually has a business that's complementary to what you're building. Just realize that there is a very strong chance you'll have to do a off-market deal, and there are a lot more risks associated with doing an off-market deal. You can find better deals for sure, but there is also a lot more murky waters on how to do things safely. So just be careful when you do private deals. So that is really strategic Sally. She's one of the favorite buyers of sellers. So if you are a strategic Sally, you are in a very good position to make a lot of good deals happen and come your way. And to be honest, you don't need that many deals to really skyrocket your business. Like 2 to 6 acquisitions are complementary to your main business can bring your business to an entirely different level very, very quickly. So you don't need like dozens of acquisitions under your belt. You really just need a handful to make it really worthwhile to pursue this strategy. And if you're passionate about your core business, that's probably a thing I should have mentioned earlier, you should be passionate about it, then you will absolutely love the process of building all these different puzzle pieces that make your core business just grow like wildfire. So if you want to see who you are, see if you are a strategic Sally, definitely check out our buyer persona quiz down below in the description and leave us a comment. What do you think of strategic Sally? Does this resonate with you? Do you think it's cool? Do you want to become like her when you grow up? Like all that kind of stuff. So also, if you did like this video, I would love it if you go ahead and subscribe. That would mean a lot to us and you will get updated every time we do a new video. And of course, if you are ready to, this is the ending of the buyer persona series basically, if you are ready to look at buying a business, there will also be a link down in the description below where you can register for a free account on the Empire Flippers Marketplace. Talk to you soon and I hope you're all doing well out there in internet land.